This session today is on Materia Medica, and the drugs which we have chosen are some of the key antipsorics. Yes, some of the key antipsorics, and that is the first three: triumvirate, Trimurti, Sulphur, Calcarea, and Lycopodium, and two more popular or rather important antipsorics, Natrum and Sepia. Now we shall see them one by one. The first drug is sulphur. Now under sulphur, we will see it differently than we have seen the other drugs. We have divided it under only two heads. One is Hering's double bolt symptoms, and second is the miasmatics. Because the prescription of sulphur not only involves symptomatology, involves miasmatics. We shall see that. Now in Hering's double bolt symptoms, we see foolish happiness and pride, thinks himself in possession of beautiful things, even rags seem beautiful, indisposed to everything, indisposed to work, indisposed to pleasure, indisposed to talking or even motion, indolence of mind and body, then disgust, to nausea about any effluvia arising from his own body, that is, own smell causes nausea. Then melancholy mood, dwelling on religious or philosophical speculations. Then anxiety about the salvation, mukti, najat, or whatever it's called in Islam. What is salvation is called in najat. So that is what is going to happen to me after my life. So that is salvation. In Christianity also it is called salvation. Then religious or philosophical speculations, I have already said. Then indifference about lot of others, not only about his own, about those of others also. So there is too philosophical, too lazy to rouse himself up, and too unhappy to live. Hypochondriasis, that is somatic anxiety, after suppression of eruption. Then dread, fear of being washed, particularly in children. Now, let us go to the miasmatics of this now. You know, the drug picture of sulphur is very much known to all. There is nothing new about the drug picture of sulphur. We have studied it from first year onwards. And sulphur flashes a glimpse of dirty, filthy, lean and lanky, stoop-shouldered persons. Now, alcoholics, drug addicts, depressives and dementia patients, if you look to them as a class, you find that they are habitually dirty or careless about dresses. They are careless about dresses. But Hahenamann in his chronic diseases advised us to administer sulphur and also hypersulph from time to time. He has said that give sulphur from time to time, give hypersulph from time to time. Now it is interesting to see one logic here, that Hahenamann said medicines act unconditionally, that is, they act on all persons and at all times. Then really during proving, even fat or thin, dirty or clean, all the provers exhibited symptoms. So that means it has acted on all. So that is a very important thing. It is not only that it has acted only on filthy and dirty people. Now we will see something from our Organon and chronic diseases on sulphur. Aphorism 242 says, if however in such an epidemic of intermittent fever the first paroxysms have been left uncured, then we have chosen some parts. The patients have been weakened by improper allopathic treatment, that is the use of allopathic drugs. We have now to do with a psoric intermittent fever only, and this will generally be subdued by minute and rarely repeated doses of sulfur, not a single dose, but some repeated doses of sulfur or hypersulf in a high potency. Then aphorism 284 says, the power of medicines acting upon the infant through the milk of the mother or wet nurse is wonderfully helpful. But the case of mothers in their first pregnancy by means of a mild antipsoric treatment, especially with sulfur, is indispensable in order to destroy sora, the producer of most chronic diseases. So the role of sulfur here has been emphasized. Then there is something more in chronic diseases. In footnote at page number 105, recent itch disease with its cutaneous eruption has been cured at times without any external remedy by even one very small dose of a properly potentized preparation of sulfur, and this within 2, 3 or 4 weeks period. And at page 127, a freshly arisen eruption of itch belongs to those diseases which might soonest permit the repetition of the dose, that is sulfur. But this repetition should be permitted only when the preceding dose has largely exhausted its action, that is after 6, 8 or 10 days, and the dose should be given in a different potency. Nevertheless, it is in such a case often serviceable to interpose between the doses of pure sulfur a small dose of hypersulf. This also should be given in various potencies. So that tells about the miasmatics of prescription of sulfur as well as hypersulf. Now, here in page 106 as well as 134, Hahenamann has given its importance of prescribing sulfur in very tedious and complex cases which have been mismanaged by allopathic treatment, necessary to give from time to time a dose of sulfur or hypersulf. So that is the role again here in complex diseases which have been mismanaged by allopathic treatment. Then at page 134, epidemic and sporadic fever. In those conditions also he has advised the use of sulfur. Then finally, at the beginning of the treatment of an epidemic intermittent fever, homeopathic physician is most safe in giving every time an attenuated dose of sulfur. Now here, is there any symptomatology involved? No. Here Hahenamann tells us to use sulfur, and that is the miasmatics of prescribing sulfur in such cases. But we go ahead. There are two paths. One is symptomatic path and second is miasmatic path. Sulfur, now to summarize, make clear the path, then relieve many of the sufferings and bring in a definite picture of some other drug which is lying masked. That is clears the case. That is what is written. Also used when problems are unabated, unsolved after certain disease. Then cold allergy of children, atopic or allergic manifestations of children, respiratory, various problems of a child after inoculation, and then problems after sprain in leg, etc. Now these are the conditions where we have to remember this. Now the miasmatic path, that is symptomatic path. Now the miasmatic path, sulfur covers maximum symptoms of Hahenamannian sora. It is the king of antisoric medicines. We can find general features such as these 5 features have been enlisted: chilliness, easy fatigue without any cardiac complaint, intolerance to hunger. At 10 a.m. patient cannot control hunger. Then craving for sweet, sour, warm foods, and congestion in palms and soles. Then may avoid sulfur. Many times many practitioners avoid sulfur for the fear of aggravation, that the disease will aggravate. Now such a fear is going to keep you away from chances of cure. When some eruptions appear indicating sora, when to prescribe sulfur? 4 conditions. When some eruptions appear indicating sora as the possible cause, when a case of temperature refuses to abate, then when initial sora flares up, or some complex case is mismanaged and turned intractable, that is untraceable, by unhomeopathic treatment. So that is about picture of sulfur. go to the next drug, and that is Calcarea carb. In Calcarea carb, we will go in our traditional way, covering region, mind, modalities, generalities, Herring's double bold, and particulars. Now let us see the region. Region here is nutrition, gland, cervical as well as mesenteric, abdominal, bones, skin, then blood, chest, heart, and children. Calcarea carb is a remedy for children. Yes. So then next is Calcarea is a remedy for children, and right side more prominently. Now aggravations, cold, raw air, wet, bathing, cooling off, change of weather, then exertion. Calcarea hates exertion. They are the people who are lazy people. Then dentitional remedy, we all know, remedy for adolescence, puberty, then pressure of clothes, cannot tolerate clothes, milk is intolerable, awaking in the morning, then before falling asleep, after eating, then lifting weights, spraining parts. Calcarea is used in sprains after rustox, letting limbs hang down, and then dry fruits, then sexual excesses, stretching the affected part, suckling the child, then fasting, full moon. So these are the conditions where it is aggravation is seen. Now better, less dry weather, lying on painful side, morning after rising, after breakfast, then emission of gases, then rubbing, drawing the limbs up, unfolding them, lying on the back, and dark room. Headache is better in dark room. That is a common symptom of migraine. Now Herring's repeatedly verified, we see thinking is difficult. Visions of faces and persons when eyes are closed, that is hallucinations. Fears she will lose her reason, that is she will become mad, or that people will observe her confusion of mind. Now these are the ideas of reference or delusions of reference. Then anxiety, shuddering, and dread as soon as evening comes on with fear of death. Torments those around him day and night because of the anxiety. Great anxiety, restlessness, and palpitation. These features make it a very strong contender for OCD, obsessive compulsive disease. Then despairing, that is depression, hopeless of ever getting well with fear of death, tormenting all around day and night. Is it the same symptom written? No, different. It is a little different. But then tormenting all those day and night is the common feature there. Children are self-willed. That is, they will not listen to anybody. Inclined to grow fat, indisciplined, and subsequently fatty child. After exertion of mind, hyperemia of head, blood goes to head, chorea, trembling, spells. Then excitement brings on dysmenorrhea. Least excitement endangers return of menses or causes metrorrhagia. Then ketamine is menses. Despairing, this is again it has come. So that completes the Herring's repeatedly verified symptoms. Now mind is summarized. Many fears, 57 rubrics in the synthetic repertory and 46 rubrics of anxiety. So that means fears and anxiety is the paramount feature or runs through the remedy is the characteristic. Then in children, anxiety of even closing the eyes, sees objects, because when eyes are closed, he sees the objects, hallucinations, visual hallucinations which vanish when opening the eyes, nightmares, easily frightened, leading to lack of initiative, that is loss of will, no desire to do anything, and as a result getting fatty and fattier. Fear of dark. In adults, fear of insanity called lysophobia, as if the patient will become mad. Of being observed, somebody is going to observe or is observing, that other people will observe, or confusion, anxiety about health, easily frightened, cannot bear to see cruelty like causticum. Horrible things affect her profoundly, fear of poverty, anxiety about afterlife. Then adults to whom work is very important, workaholic people, feel over-responsible, carry the burden of the whole world, fear of losing control. Then occupation ameliorates, better when occupied, slow but reliable. Then fear of animals, dogs, small animals, especially insects and spiders, desire to be magnetized. That includes not only physical rubbing but even consolation. Consolation is mental mesmerization. आप ठीक हो जाओगे, you will become all right. Now this, like rubbing, is the physical mesmerization, and this giving suggestion is also construed as magnetization. Then in generalities we see fat and flabby persons, then children who are late in their milestones, then fontanelles, etc., delayed dentition, etc. Then as per one author, 40% of the children need calcarea during their first years for some reason or the other. Big head, large hard abdomen, then enlarged gland, very chilly patient, then strong desire for sweets and eggs. Rest of the features you can read them. Then local perspiration, perspiration of some part, especially the head and neck, sour perspiration, profuse perspiration. Then sourness in general, all discharges, even the child is smelling sour. Then local sensation of coldness, as if hands and feet they become cold, even feet are as if damp stocking has been worn. So that is, feet are wet. Flabby, sluggish women, growth is very rapid. Then ailments from exertion. Exertion cannot be tolerated. Particular symptoms are tendency to obstinate, constipation. This child or this man particularly is having constipation, white and chalk-like stools. So that is a feature found in Calcarea stool. Then after modalities we go to, So that completes the description of Calcarea carb. Now we go to the next remedy, which is Lycopodium. In Lycopodium, we see the region: nutrition, digestive tract, urinary organs, right-sided remedy, then right and then followed by left. So we all remember, we all know these are the features of Lycopodium as region is concerned. Then worse by pressure of clothes, cannot tolerate tight clothes. Worse by warmth, hot patient. Waking, then wind, worse from wind. Worse than eating to satiety. If overeating is there, पेट भर के अगर खा लिया, if there is eating up to satiety, there is a problem. Oysters, indigestion. Then most important aggravation, we are aware, 4 to 8 p.m. lying on right side, and bread. Then better by warm drinks and food. Then better by cold applications. Then here we have got better by eructations, that is emission of gases. After urination, pain in back is relieved, loosening the clothes, open air, then uncovering the head. Now here about bread. Bread is compared with chapati because we don't eat bread. But then chapati, many times we find that this rubric is being used as the chapati. So, but then again, that depends on whether you are a rice eater or whether you are a chapati eater. If you go to South India, then over there the rubric is going to vary. So, this is not very important rubric, but then it has to be interpreted like that. Hearings repeatedly verified symptoms: fear of men, solitude, irritability and melancholy, weeps all day, aggravation 4 to 8, sensitive, even cries when thanked, so sensitive, satiety of life, particularly mornings in bed, amativeness is cheerfulness, and amorousness is sexually person is more active and libido is increased. sensitive, irritable disposition, peevish and cross on getting awake, easily excited to anger, cannot endure slightest opposition, and is speedily besides herself. If somebody opposes her, then she is besides herself, cannot control. Ailments from fright, sudden fear, anger, mortification, vexation with result displeasure. As we have seen, this all is covered under stress. A single word stress represents this. Then oversensitiveness to pain. Patient is beside himself. Then we go to mind. Extreme lack of self-confidence, aversion to undertaking new things. Then here haughtiness and dictatorial nature, that is bossing nature. Then helplessness, inflated ego, heightened ego. Then irritability in morning on waking. We have seen that that is very important symptom. In so far as case taking, in that also we have seen that the symptom after getting up. What is the first thing in psychiatry we give importance to it? That after rising, whatever is the symptom, that is very important. So morning on waking is very important here. Fears and shuns responsibilities, avoids responsibilities because of lack of confidence. In generalities, we see chilly but liking for open air, sensitive to drafts, becoming cold. Now this chilly hot business, I have told you that do not give excessive importance to it, otherwise you will be confused. Drugs are not clearly chilly or clearly hot, they are either mixed. So here Lycopodium also has some features of chilly and some features of being hot. Now if you give more importance to the feature of being hot, you will label it as a hot remedy with chilly features. If you give more importance to chilly, then you will say chilly remedy with hot features. So that is a mixed remedy. So unless a patient is very clearly chilly or hot, do not give more importance to that. Becoming cold aggravate, full of gas, inflated, right-sided remedy, and desires sweets. Remember, desire sweet is a strong psoric symptom. Then hot food, desires also hot food, and hot food ameliorate also. Then intellect is keen but the muscles are weak, easily satisfied by little food. Then hungry at night. Then must eat at regular times to avoid headache. If there is not proper eating in time, then acidity, they call acidity is there and headache is there. So dryness of palms, skin, nose, private part. Then particulars, headache from overheating. Then heat, burning sensation between scapulae, obstruction of nose at night, backache, one foot cold and the other hot. So that puts one foot out of bed. So that is about Lycopodium. Then we go to our next remedy, that is Natrum mure. Natrum mure is made from a common edible item, common salt. It is interesting that we all eat salt, but still salt in a potentized way unravels so many symptoms, and that is region is nutrition, brain, blood and muscles, mind, heart, glands, mucus, then skin, left side, right side, more of left side. Then aggravation, periodically, either 10 a.m. or 9 to 11 a.m. Sun, heat of sun, that is why in place of like Nagpur, this is a medicine which is used more commonly. Violent emotions, then sympathy, puberty, quinine, old malaria cases, silver salt, seashore or sea air. So for that matter, in place like Bombay also, you get the symptoms of this Natrum mure. It's a polycrest remedy. Everywhere you get the symptoms of this. Then better, open air, pool bathing, sweating, better by sweating is a strong antipsoric feature. But hypersulf, no relief from sweating. Mersol, aggravation from sweating. Sorinum, better by sweating. Then deep breathing, seashore is relief. There is relief at seashore also, and there is aggravation at seashore also. Going without regular meals, that is fasting. These patients are very happy by not eating, lying on right side and tight clothing. In hearing, we see very much inclined to be hurriedness, depression of spirits, that is melancholy, etc., sad and weeping mood, these features are very prominent. Sad and weeping, consolation aggravates, does not like anybody to console. Hypochondriacal is again somatic anxiety. Then leading keynote symptoms of Natrum have been summarized. All Natrums are hypersensitive and closed. They don't share, they don't discuss. In Natrum, the defensiveness and resentment predominate, not to hurt and not to be hurt either, or the opposite is to hurt but not to be hurt. So that means he doesn't want to be hurt. She doesn't want to be hurt. Either she may hurt others or she may not hurt others, but she will like to defend herself. These are the analyses which have been made by the later authors. You may agree or not agree with this. You may make your own interpretations, but this is what has been the from Vermeulen we have taken. Great vulnerability, and easily hurt. Then fear of being rejected, desire for solitude, wants to be alone, dwells on past disagreeable occurrences, then recall them again and again, especially by playing sad music. Silent grief. Silent grief is the very important feature here, where for years together there has been some grief. Very responsible, feeling of guilt, sympathetic patient, then objective and controlled in mental level, immature on emotional level. That is intellectually very strong but emotionally very weak. There is lack of balance. Then wall around Natrum, there is a wall around Natrum may come down after alcohol or during sex. That is natural, that is with everybody. With alcohol or with sex, this wall breaks down and they may keep on telling all things. Then defensive and cautious people. So that is another characteristic. With generalities, we find mainly warm but can be chilly. So wherever you read about this chilly hot business, you will find the contradictory features, because always remember, medicines act on all people at all times. That means that it is not that it will act only on hot people. It will act on chilly people also. So strong craving for salt is important. Seashore aggravates great thirst. Then symptoms appear and disappear gradually. Then discharges like white of an egg. Particulars are of headache. All symptoms of headache are there, which you know it. You may read it again and again, and that is what is important remedy in migraine for that matter, but not during migraine. That is to eradicate the tendency of migraine chronic condition. Herpes, then dryness of private parts, mapped tongue, then lacrimation in wind, then deep crack in middle of the lower lip, skin of the face is oily, backache ameliorates lying on something hard, belly ache is better by tight clothing. That takes us to the last drug of today, which is Sepia. Now Sepia is a remedy of which in chronic disease you find a lot of symptoms, and Sepia is a remedy which is more confusing remedy as a student, because the picture is not very clear in our proper previous way of understanding. But if you add the knowledge of psychiatry to it, then you find that the picture of Sepia becomes more clear. But let us go to that step by step. First is venous circulation, which is digestive tract, portal system, female pelvic organs, nerves, skin and left side. Modalities are worse in cold, then sexual excesses, then before menses. Now all of us have read that Sepia has got aversion or loss of interest to sex, but the interpretation by authors has been made like that earlier the patient had a lot of interest about sex, but afterwards, after experiences or after sicknesses or after the mental state, finally in the present picture the patient has got aversion to sex. That does not mean that from day one the patient of Sepia has aversion to sex. Remember that interpretation. Then before menses, pregnancy, abortion, morning, evening, after first sleep, afternoon, mental exertion, milk, menopause, etc. You know all these and you have to read it again and again. Better violent motion, rocking, dancing. Dancing, sepia patient is better from dancing. Violent motion is involved in dancing. Then cold drinks when busy, sitting with legs which are crossed. It is said that because there is a sensation that something will come out. So in order to prevent that sensation, the patient wants to sit cross legs. Then these are the most important symptoms from hearing. Aversion to one's occupation and even family, to those which have been loved best. Then anxiety with fear, flushes, etc. Great indifference to one's family, to those they love best. That is a sign of depression, a picture of depression. Not many symptoms you see. We have taken only double bold. There are a number of bold symptoms. Then mental stasis, that is mentally there is a lack of movement. So stasis is there, confusion, absent-mindedness, dullness, thinking is difficult, then wants to be alone, indifferent, incommunicative, does not talk, emotional stasis, indifference, fault-finding, fretful, sarcastic, spiteful, striking, aggravation before menses. Now generalities, very chilly, aversion to fat, ailments related to hormonal changes, and aversion to coition. Now this is the, as I have told, the picture of the present state. Then in generalities, periodicity, then physical stasis, then milky discharges, never well since the pill, that is since taking the contraceptive pill. Easy fainting, especially in warm room and when kneeling at church. Then heaviness of eyelids, headache, shriveled breasts, weak patient, Raynaud's disease. So Raynaud's disease is gangrene. So that is what is sepia. So that completes our today's discussion on the drugs, key antipsoric remedies. As it is, there are any questions?